So that's what I've done. But you won't, you're really, thank you. I appreciate it. Now, the nice part is I brought my daughter into the business, so here you go. And if you could sign in for us, please. Yeah, so I'm doing my best to, hey, 3 daughters and 28 years of marriage, somebody's getting the business but me. So, here's, I guess, what I want you to know. That I started using the buyer-broker agreement for one reason. Okay? Anybody know what that one reason is? And this is, by the way, my class is very, sorry? To get paid. Good, but no. Transparency, good. And no. What? Got burned. Loyalty. All of these are good answers. Yes. Very good. No. Actually, everybody dissuaded me from having a buyer-broker agreement signed. In fact, yes. Full disclosure. All of these are great answers. Okay. I'm sorry? Protect my time. What is the one thing of value that you can measure when you work with a buyer? Good. Time. Very good. Time. It's the one thing of value that you can measure when you work with a buyer. So I got tired of getting the Monday morning call. And what is the Monday morning call? There you go. 2 people at the same time. Good. Hey, you're never going to believe, Ken, I'm returning your call from Friday. Well, I had called you Friday because I wanted to see if there were any properties that I had sent you that you may want to view over the weekend. You're never going to believe what happened, Ken. Okay. Okay. We were driving through, and just pick anywhere that it's got crappy cell phone reception. Okay. We were in Olevenheim. We were in parts of Otay Ranch. We were in, just name it. Just, we were in the Miramar area. We tried to call you, but gosh, we had terrible cell phone reception. Okay. So here's what happened. We walked into this open house, and the listing agent was there. And they said they knew the seller really well and can get us a great deal. So lo and behold, we wrote this offer, and it got accepted this morning. We knew you'd be so thrilled and happy for us, and we just can't say thank you enough for working with us for 9 months. Okay? For 9 months. And for you to take off on Christmas to go and show us properties for 4 hours in the rain, okay, when you were sick. We can't say thank you enough. And for you to come out New Year's Eve night and show us all of those properties, there are no words that we can say thank you enough. So we got you a $100 gift card for Starbucks. Okay? And here's the piece de resistance. Okay? And you know what? You're going to be our first invite to the housewarming party. Okay? So here's the deal. I got tired of being burned. And I figured there had to be some other way to do this. Right? There had to be some other way to make sure that I was not wasting my time, because that's the only thing that I had. Okay? My wife told me, if you're pissed off and you're coming home and you're in a bad mood, don't come home. Stay at the office, because we don't want you here when you're like that. And I figured there had to be a better way to do this. Okay? I can't remember, somebody said your manager mandated it, but broker or manager. No, they didn't mandate it. In fact, moreover, they said, we don't use anything like that. There is no tool like that. So, no, we don't have anything. And I went to my manager, or my boss at the time, who I worked for, and then we went up the chain to the manager of the office, and I said, what do I do? He's like, oh, there's nothing really to do. Okay, I said, well, what if I draft something up and have my buyers sign that? Will that be okay? Well, let me see it first. Drafted it up, redrafted it, sent it up the chain. Manager said, fine, you can get it signed. Great, more power to you. I don't think anybody's going to sign it. Nobody does this. Okay? And my mindset was, I've got nothing to lose. What do you have when you have a client that you're showing around without a buyer-broker agreement? You have nothing. You have nothing. Okay? Show of hands. I come in to your office, or I call you. How's that? I call you. Ken, I'd like you to sell my house. Now, I'd like everybody here to raise their hands. And this is just to show you how this works. Show of hands. How many of you would sell that property? Well, I'm assuming all of you would take that sale, correct? Show of hands. How many of you would take that sale? It better be everybody. Okay, so then the question is, how many of you would show that property, put it in the multiple listing system, market around that property, and market to other neighbors in that area for new listings without a signed listing agreement? Is there anyone who would? Good. If you work with a seller, you have a listing agreement. If you work with a buyer, have a buyer's agreement. Does that make sense? You're wasting your time with clients who are not going to confirm and agree to work with you exclusively. You're wasting your time. Good? I promise. I've been through it enough. Has anybody here had that happen to them? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? So for anybody here who thinks that doesn't happen and it's not happened to you, just look around. This is not some anomaly. This is real. And this is real life.
I've had them do it when they do sign the agreement.
There you go. Now the question is, she's had them do it. Did you have an exclusive buyer's? You did. Did your broker go after the buyer for the commission?
Yes, we did.
And
We actually ended up partnering on a referral basis. They did all the work and we just let them have it. We were really nice about it.
okay, but did you collect any kind of referral?
Yes.
Fair enough. In my opinion, this is not the opinion of SDAR. This is my personal opinion. So I'm not the PC guy. So I'm not the guy who's going to be in here going, oh, well, you know, this is what, I'm going to tell you what I think, okay? In my opinion, and the brokers that I worked for previously would go after a buyer if they signed an exclusive buyer-broker agreement and then breach that contract as they did with listing agreements. Make sense? Okay. So that's how I got started. I will tell you that it was a painful and difficult time for me to transition into that. But I will tell you that it changed the course of how I do business. It changed exactly what it was because it made me think, okay, I can't keep doing this same stuff and running myself ragged and being pissed off when I have nobody else to blame but myself. I had nobody to blame but myself. Does this mean that you need to use a buyer-broker agreement? Absolutely not. Run your business how you want to. You can do anything you want. I am just here to tell you how it's worked for me. Does that make sense? Yeah. I am not here to tell you you have to. I'm here to tell you this is how it's worked for me. And let me tell you, as this national litigation has had ripples throughout the real estate community as a whole, you're just starting to see the beginning of this. The talk is, and no one knows if it's going to do this, the talk is that we are going to, and again, talk, not in practice. There is talk of going to a single agency state. Anybody know what that means? You will not be able to represent, conceivably, hypothetically, represent both the buyer and the seller in the same transaction. They want a differential so that it's very clear, the clear lines of delineation between who's representing, bless you, the seller and who's representing the buyer. And how are they going to do that? Who's got a contract? Okay? And this is the legalese stuff of contracts. And I've worked with enough attorneys and been on enough panels and worked very closely with our head counsel at the previous brokerage prior to me starting our own brokerage. For 18 years, I worked with them. And I worked with lead counsel on developing how we present this to agents. And everybody from that company had to go through my class on how to do this. So it was kind of a mix of lawsuit avoidance, how to fill out the buyer broker, and overcoming objections. Good? So this was how to do this. But the legalese of any contract is that it needs to be filled out reasonably to be deemed enforceable. Everybody understand that? Good? Some of this stuff, most of you know. Maybe others don't. I don't know. So I'm just laying down the basics. Fair enough? So this tool is an instrument. You cannot use this instrument as a tool of entrapment. Does that make sense? It needs to be filled out reasonably to be deemed enforceable. Good? Questions? Anybody? Yes.
I have a comment.
Yes.
So just recently, because I think people should be aware of this, is actually happening now because of the lawsuit
Yep.
things and all that. So I was just in a transaction where we submitted an offer with my buyer. It was a complete fixer. We put in, and he's not a fixer. He's a first-time 30-year-old guy trying to get a
Yeah.
place in San Diego. And we get into the contract, we do it, we send it over to the agent. He comes back, and he doesn't want to accept it because it's low. And he said, but you wrote a really good offer. He said, I really like your offer. I want to work with you, blah, blah, blah. Can you get your guy to come up and stuff? And then I'm like, no, that's not really going to happen. And he says, well, we were going to counter back out your commission. Do you have a buyer represented agreement with your client and let him pay for your commission?
So anybody know what the rule is on this? Right now, sorry.
Published in the MLS, they have to pay.
If it is commissions are negotiable. If it is published in the MLS, they have to adhere to that. What is
Commission's agreement
Exactly what
between you and
I
your
said.
client, not
I said, I don't understand. It's in the MLS. This
Correct.
is
Sorry.
2.5%. What are you talking about?
okay? Good. Yes, and then we'll go.
So what I came across that once before, actually, when my old broker told me to do is when I send over the offer, I send out the MLS printout with the offer. So it highlights the commission. I believe send it with the PDF.
There is record, just so we're on the same page, if you look on the history of any listings, of when something is changed on any listing. Okay, so there will be trackable evidence that it was offered out. Yes, sir.
Does it depend which MLS you're in? So if you're in another, the agreement is for members of that MLS. So if you're in another MLS, you're not subject to that same agreement. So that's why it's very important that you cover yourself.
It is my understanding that is correct, but I will tell you there are state provisions which may trump that if it is published. Does that make sense?
I just thought, make sure you cover yourself if it's published in another MLS, because it could be that you lose your commission because because the agreements flow under that MLS.
And this, so just so you know, previously, you were not allowed to talk about commissions that someone else has already established. You are not allowed to, in writing, ask for any increase or reduction of commission from anyone. That has changed. That is now acceptable, and this tool allows you to establish that. This tool allows you to submit with your offer and your buyer's agreement to the seller or listing agent, excuse me, with your offer, showing that the buyer is going to have to pay whatever if it's not paid by the seller. Does that make sense? Now,
But you're just disclosing your agreed commissions between you as the agent and them as the buyer.
correct.
It can't be negotiated between the listing agent and the buyer's agent on how the commissions are gonna shake out. Cause it's a relationship, the contractual relationship on commission is between,
It is, but you have the right to, in writing,
just
ask
disclose that.
ask and disclose, because it's telling the seller, hey, look, this buyer is going to have to pay out of their pocket and may change their opinion on what they feel the value of the property is if they have to come out of pocket. Does that make sense? Good. So 3 most important words in real estate: disclose, disclose, disclose. Disclose early, disclose often. How many of you were there on Friday? Show of hands. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so it's disclose, disclose, disclose. That is going to be, just so you know, the recurring theme throughout this entire class. Okay? If you ever have a question about whether you should disclose it or not, disclose it. Disclose everything. Transparency is key. Anybody know what the vast majority of litigation that comes out of real estate is? Non-disclosure issues by a seller, by a listing agent, by a buyer's agent. Something, somewhere, somebody has not disclosed what they should have disclosed. So, disclose everything. Does that mean it's going to keep you out of court? No. Because the bottom line is, somebody wants to go to court, they're taking everybody. And they're going after everybody. Doesn't matter. People just get named because they were involved in the transaction. Whether they had any part of any kind of downfall from, what happened through the transaction. Good? And that, that's liability. It's just why we have E&O. All right, questions? Yeah. What happened on Friday? So there was an SDAR new laws conference, and there were 500, 1,000, I don't know, somewhere in that range. I don't know. So there were a lot of people there, and this was one of the panels that was there. And I was there with Karen, who's been using a buyer broker as long. She's just not been exclusively a buyer's agent. And so, to the best of my knowledge, I'm probably the longest running buyer's agent who's exclusively used a buyer broker agreement for the longest period of time, since '97, when I started using it. I still have them framed on my desk. I just want you to know, they have no teeth. I've read through it a bunch of times. There's no way that thing would hold up in court. There's no way. I look at it and I kind of laugh a little bit. But what it did was, it made that buyer think, stop, and understand that they were making a commitment to me, whether it was enforceable or not. That was the biggest hurdle for me. Because the biggest, I should have been wearing a pair of Depends, because I was so scared the first time that I went to go get the buyer broker agreement signed. Okay? Would you mind handing that? Thanks. Okay, yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
It may not be the appropriate timing.
All right,
but,
it's all good.
I am in the midst of, just had an offer accepted yesterday.
Okay.
On a large parcel over 50 acres. I work with a builder, and he had gone back, after we had our initial walkthrough, and ran into the seller on the property. You kind of know where this is going. He didn't disclose that he was represented, but I did call and share that I had walked the land with my buyers and we were gonna be submitting an offer. I always ask, do you have any current offers? Are they physically in hand, And he says no. I then yesterday received, he stalled a day, I should say.
Who stalled a day?
The listing agent.
Okay.
In responding. Suddenly I receive a multiple counter. He failed to disclose, and I asked, I said, are you representing the other buyer? And he said no. Well, lo and behold, he is, so obviously unethical. I requested that they respond best and final, and that they present first to the seller, and I requested a Zoom conference with, I know it's weird, but I said this is the only way we're gonna proceed. Because, and he had also called our lender to try to figure out how much more room we have in the take. So, have you dealt with something like that?
Sure.
20 years plus,
Yeah.
I've never dealt with this.
Couple things that are holes in that. Number one, what if there was an offer that backed out? And what if a new buyer came in? Good. And what he was saying was true. So the question is, do you get the deal done, or do you worry about an agent who's unethical?
Oh, yeah, we got the deal done, but.
Right.
But I know he's unethical, he also drove the price up.
So here's, and I've written this many times in counteroffers. Seller to provide proof of additional offer.
That's what we did, okay, and he didn't present it yet, as of now, so,
So yeah, I mean that's what I do.
okay.
Good?
What's the constitutes, proof to you?
I want a copy of the offer.
The whole offer, not just.
The entire offer, every page of that offer. What, if they're saying that that's what it is, and we feel like the agent's playing games, we can write in, this is all contingent upon you providing the offer. When was it written? Okay, what's the date stamp at the bottom? Who wrote it? Look at the WIN forms or ZIP forms or whatever they call it now at the bottom that shows who the agent is. You know what I'm saying? All of these things, when was disclosure signed? It used to have a time on it. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I know Rocky, you and I do.
With DocuSign, it probably does.
Yeah, with DocuSign, it probably does. Probably has a timestamp. Didn't think about that. Okay, so that's how I'd probably proceed. Good? And yes?
I have a question. So I have two buyers that I represent at the builder, Katie Home.
Mm-hmm.
And we closed on it, and then he referred me his sisters. His sisters say, we don't want to go up the riverside. So I work with them in San Diego, and then I got into some property we didn't like, right? And then I was out on Thanksgiving, Holiday, Christmas. The next thing I know, the brother closed on it, refer the sister, go up to Katie Home and sign, and I just came back on Thanksgiving because I'm like following up, I still got Friday closed. And then decided on that, so cut me out complete on commission.
Mm-hmm.
And then I called the sales rep, I said, I'm sorry.
If you didn't walk them in the first time through the door.
I didn't tell him, but he knows all
Okay,
my buyers.
but so here's the thing. Okay, you're behind the 8 ball right now in this market. And there are new home developers who are not paying anything. Nada. Good? For those of you who are newer in this business, you may not know the trend. Okay? Because all you're seeing, if you've been in this business just a short time, and I mean under 5 years, 7 years, you're seeing the commissions from builders going down, 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 from a percentage down to a flat fee. Okay? And the flat fee on $1 million home, $5,000. Okay? So, is that the norm? Can they do that? Absolutely. When the market slows down, it starts going back up, then they want us again, then they want you to bring your buyers, then it's 2%, then it's 3%, then it's 3 plus a bonus. I mean, I remember when they were giving away cars. They were actually giving away cars. Every time you brought a buyer, you got an entrance ticket into a raffle for a car, a Range Rover. Okay? There were people who were giving away Tiffany gift cards. There was back in the day, that's, just hang around long enough and you see the ebbs and flows. So just know that. Unfortunately, and so what I do is with my buyers, I tell them, before you walk into any new home development, call me. I'll meet you up there and we'll walk in together. Because otherwise, they're going to say that they're not going to compensate me for representing you.
Right. But I've been working with that person, so he knows.
Doesn't matter.
I just have to call and tell him the name and stuff.
Yeah. And somebody probably from his office came down and said, wait a second, they didn't come in the first time? We're putting the hammer down because we're cutting costs. Good? So that's what it is. Yes?
You might get to this, and I'm new, so.
No, it's okay.
But let's say you're working with a buyer and you explain the brbc.
Yep.
And let's say you tell them you're some agent and say, how am I gonna come up with that if there's a discrepancy in the MLS with the listing agent or like, and I'm not, right now, like I said, I don't know anything, but I think this is great, but I want to be able to respond to someone if they
Sure.
say, should we look for something
So here's the thing. If you're the buyer, I'm going to tell you, just so you know, this is the minimum that I work for fee-wise. And whether you put a percentage in or whether you put a flat amount in, that is your decision. You need to walk before you run, okay? I tell my clients that in the event that there is a shortfall of what that minimum threshold is that I've set, we will discuss it then and we'll figure out a way to make this work. Now, if that means that we need to increase the price of the home to cover that so the seller can pay it and you don't have to, we can always write the offer that way. You'll know the commission structures before we go in. That way you make the determination whether or not you feel it's worth that other 0.5% or 1/4%. But just so you know, I want to try and save you that. I don't want to make it so that you have to pay it. And we can always try and negotiate that with the seller. And if the property's been on the market for a little longer than most, we may have a better chance than not to get that taken care of. Good? Questions?
And that's not that compensation, discrepancy compensation from the seller to the buyer is not part of the RPA, it's like a separate.
No, it is. I mean, once you use the buyer-broker agreement, it becomes part of. Okay? So there are two boxes on the one box on the RPA, one box on the buyer-broker agreement, or brbc, sorry. I've changed this thing around so many times I can't tell you. Okay? So there are two boxes. One that on the brbc, is there another pile of, I don't know where they put them. Oh, sorry. Oh, I just walked by them, that's right. My age is getting to me. Okay, so there are two boxes. One on the brbc that the buyer is allowing you to present this buyer-broker agreement to the seller through the listing agent with your offer. You actually fax or email or just, yeah. Okay, all right, it's all good. Yeah, go ahead. I'm right, I can take it. Okay, you can docu-sign, sorry, this over with your offer. Boy, that's an embarrassing thing. Okay. I don't usually get flustered. Wow, that's wild. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Very, very nice. I appreciate that. Yeah. A+, there you go. Perfect. All right, so, ready? You attach this to your offer. Once this is checked, and I'll show you where you need to check the box, good, that your buyer is agreeing to let you send this with your offer. I don't care if you use, pigeon. You can send it that way. Carrier mail, doesn't matter, okay? By Pony Express, it's fine, okay? Then, on the RPA, there is a box to check where you're going to put, the buyer has asked me to attach this to the offer. So the seller knows exactly what is at stake. Good? Questions? Yes, Rocky.
Well, but you don't need to attach this if the MLS is offering
Correct.
the same amount.
Very good. Good clarification. Yes, if the commission structure in which you've set here is a minimum and meets that minimum threshold, you don't need to send this over. Good? But the most important part is you need to disclose to the buyer before you walk in a property exactly what the commission structure is. Does that make sense? So they know walking in if there's going to be a deficit they're going to need to make up or that we're going to need to negotiate. Again, that theme, that underlying current of disclose early and often. Okay? Good? Yes?
Okay, I'm trying to understand how this agreement compares to the MLS. So I'm understanding what you're saying, that
Okay.
you would go into agreement with the buyer that you're going to be guaranteed, say, in between 2.5 or 3%.
So just so you know, I got schooled on this on Friday by Corey, and Rocky knows. Okay, I can't give you a number. I can do X or I can do Z. Whatever number that is to you is what that is. How's that? I can't give you a numeral.
The agent determines the number, is that what you're saying?
So what I'm saying is you determine the number in which you are going to say is my minimum threshold that I work on. Good? Whatever the MLS is, if you compare it to this, if it's the same or above, you don't need to send this over. Good?
With
There, no, I didn't hear any numeral because we're on camera, right? It's being recorded.
If it's less than X,
If it's less than, if you've put X on here and it's less than X, then you submit this. If you've put X on here and it's more than X, good to go. You don't need to send it. Rocky.
The only thing I will say is it depends on your brokerage, because some brokerages say, we don't want you to accept less than X. You have to
But,
tell your manager
okay, so ready?
to accept less than X.
So now, so here, ready? Brokerages, because of this new lawsuit, are absolutely not getting in the way anymore of stating what a fee or commission structure should be because they don't want to be liable. Good? Yes.
If it's more than X,
Yes.
explain how you take care of that to the buyer.
In what sense?
So if your X is here and they're offering more than your X. then
It's
you-
not. It automatically in this BRBC goes to you. It always has on the exclusive buyer broker agreement.
So if the buyer says to you, when you're showing the property and you're saying, well, this one's off, you don't have to worry about this one, this one's offered
Correct.
higher, they'll say, well, you're gonna give me that back. Do they say that to you?
Well, let me ask you a question. You want me to give me part of my commission back, is that correct? I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. So what part of what I do you want me to leave out? My expert negotiating skills, my expert contract writing skills, my access to contractors and home inspectors. Tell me what part of what I do you want me to leave out, and I'll consider cutting my commission.
But you said you would be, this is your minimum and this is more than your minimum. So
Absolutely. But a minimum is a minimum. It's not a maximum. It's a minimum. I mean, normally I get blank. This isn't even there. But I'm willing to take it because I want to work for you and I want to make sure you get the best representation.
Okay, so when you're presenting the form for them to sign it, you have that conversation. of-
Absolutely. 100%. Good? Yes.
Have you had a seller agree to pay the discrepancy between what they offered and what you charge?
Not yet, but I'm sure they will. This is a newer form. It's always been my buyers making up the difference. So I mean, yeah, so I will just tell you, I've had plenty of clients pay out of their pocket for my services over and above what the commission structure was in the MLS because I set a minimum threshold that was higher than what the commission structure was in the MLS.
can
Yes.
you, maybe list the different ways that could be structured? So you say, one, they can pay out of pocket. Two,
We can raise the purchase price
purchase price.
when we make our offer to cover that, or we just write it in that the seller's to make up the difference. Whatever that
Right, so the
is.
sellers make up, what happens is we've got a big whiteboard there.
Yes.
I mean, it would be nice if you could write these, I'm just,
Sure.
yes, to write down, because it looks like there's probably more than those three.
There's probably a number of different ways that you can do it, but I can tell you those are the most common ways to do it.
Do some people go lower so they can?
So, and then this is where I say walk before you run. Good? Do you need to put a minimum threshold here? No, you don't. You can just leave that part blank. And then you are accepting whatever is being offered. And if it's easier for you to work into this and get this signed without having to have a commission or fee disclosure conversation, bless you, then do that. I always tell people, get comfortable with this first. Read this backwards and forwards. Understand the language. Understand who does it benefit. Why does it benefit? Does that make sense? Know the contracts, but not just this contract. Know every contract, backwards and forwards. Be able to explain every single line of the contract that you're having someone sign. Because if you don't, you could have problems down the road. And in my opinion, I don't think you're probably doing your due diligence for your client, or it's not working in the best interest of your client. Do you have to know it all up front? No way. That's why you have managers. That's why you have mentors. Okay? I'm an agent just like you are. I do everything the same thing that you do. Okay? Except primarily I work with buyers. But I will tell you, when I first started using a form like this, it was uncomfortable. It was not the norm. And I had to think about possible rejection. But then I had to weigh it on the other hand of what my wife was saying. And in which case, that was it. I knew what I needed to do because I couldn't keep spinning my wheels. Good? Rocky.
In the old days, I'll just say, if you weren't comfortable with it or you didn't know a client or a client was coming in from out of town, you didn't know them, maybe you were gonna hate them, maybe you were gonna love them, and it could work both ways. You would ask them to sign it for a day. But
Yeah.
the houses I'm showing you on this.
Correct. So,
And if they tell you they won't sign it for one day, then tell them to go pound sand.
correct. So we're going to go over timing on this. Good? Okay. So I will tell you that this, yes.
I think we're, I like what you said, Rocky, there, and I like what you're saying. I think we're getting a little bit ahead of things, only from the standpoint of somebody comes into town, they called off my bus bench or whatever, they want to see houses.
Yep.
You have a lot of bus bench.
And I haven't signed this thing. It's extremely dangerous. I've been a tour guide.
Well, so, okay.
So you gotta,
But-
I'm saying, the thing you have to do is qualify this person to indeed, they are actually
Correct.
can and looking to buy
And
something.
so here's what my recommendation is. You need to qualify the buyer before you take them out. And I don't mean qualify them financially. I mean qualify them as what are their needs? What are they looking for? Okay? You also need to establish how you work. This is not for everybody, and not everybody's going to use this. But I will tell you, if you don't, they're going to be somebody else's client who is using a buyer-broker agreement. Make no doubt. There is no doubt about this. It's going to be shooting fish in a barrel. Because once you've learned how to use this, you're not going to have to worry anymore. You're going to have locked-in clients. You're going to have good, solid clients who are committed to you. Good? So, yes, and then I need to get to...
I know, the only other thing is, for people who don't want to use it, as Doug said on Friday, the legislature may make this a mandatory.
And this is what we talked about,
Might as well get used to it.
single agency. You know, that's where I believe, personally, not SDAR, not anything else, I'm speaking for myself, I do believe that's where we're headed. Because I've got a broker's license in Colorado. I've practiced real estate in New York for 6 years. You know, I've been in real estate for 27 here. And I will tell you, in a good majority of the states, it's against the law to represent both sides of the same transaction. You could be a transaction broker, meaning you don't have any partial view to either side. You are impartial. You act essentially as an escrow broker, if you will. Okay? But what they want and what I believe they want to see is going to be a fiduciary obligation to one side so that there is not this possible going over into a gray area that could be considered conflict of interest. I need to move on to one more thing, but go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot less probability that you will lose your client to walking into an open house unless someone's sitting on the open house. But if that's that listing agent, if the listing agent is there, they can't grab your client.
Well, that's not true. They can grab your client.
Grab you and send it to their friend, right?
No, they could. You're talking about on that specific house? Right now they can't. I mean, right this second they could.
I'm saying if you have this, like you have in other states, you can't have the same broker that handles both sides of the transaction.
Well, you can have the same broker, but you can't have the same agent. That you cannot have the same agent representing both the buyer and the seller in the same transaction. What should, would, could be, I don't make the laws. All I do is sit up here as a little puppet with strings, and I tell you what I do, and you can take it from there. Good? Okay.
One quick question.
Yes,
So you're saying we don't need to attach what's the offer if the compensation is the same?
correct.
So,
The same or above.
yeah, so we still have to disclose with agency, disclose that I'm repping the buyer, right?
Correct.
Because I got burned once.
Yes. Okay. By the way, and then we'll just get this out of the way. Okay. Everybody would know what these first 2 pages are of this agency disclosure. Good. Why do we need to have that signed? It is the law, everybody. It is the law. You have to have this signed. You need to disclose to a client that you are a licensed agent. Whatever capacity you may be in, you have to disclose this first. First thing we all have signed. Good?
You have it signed, you have to present it.
Present it and have it signed. You know what? Bye-bye. If you're getting that big a difference, then I will tell you that it's going to be harder down the line. How's that?
When you're working with somebody that's moving here for relocation, I've
Yes.
got one coming up.
Yep.
At what point am I gonna have them sign?
Good question, and hold that question because I'm going to come back to it. Good? Okay. I'm not here to promote anybody. Okay? I'm not here to promote a product, an agent, any of these Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, Matt Ferry, all the ferries. I'm not here to promote them. I'm not here to promote anybody. Okay? Including Brian Buffini or any. I'm not here to tell you what works and what doesn't. I'm here to tell you what I've learned and how I use it. I went to a seminar, and I don't do seminars. Okay? I don't do sitting down for a very long time very well. Okay? So, I go to a seminar, my first year in the business, and it changed the course of how I did business. Okay? It changed everything. It changed the outlook of how I did business and how I actually in life use this. Okay? And what I will tell you is that it is not for everybody. I will tell you that I was not a believer in what they said because I didn't like the fact that they were saying there are 4 personality types that everybody is put into a box. I thought that was all BS. And I thought that was BS because we're all different. How are you going to say somebody is this or somebody is that? And then I came to understand that it was about traits. Dominant traits and also minor traits. Good? Okay, it was based on, and again, this wasn't, and this is not an advertisement for a book or anything else. It was based on a book called The Platinum Rule. Anybody heard of it? No? Okay. So, it said that anybody heard of the DISC profiling system? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This changed the course of my life as well as my business life, and for the better. Because it helped me, excuse me, guys, thanks. It helped me identify personality traits that I could then bring that part of me out and then identify with that person. Does that make sense? Okay. I thought it was all crap that they were saying, oh, yeah, you're one of 4. There's 1,000 different personality traits. But then I realized it is a real thing. So I'm going to give you my brief synopsis of how I look at it. Good? This is not the book. It's not taught through the book. I'm just telling you how I look at it. Good? Because I'm hoping that you understand why this is important. Because when I present the buyer-broker agreement, when I meet somebody for the first time, this is what I'm looking at. It becomes a part of what I do. And anybody who looks at it and studies it for a little while, probably it's going to do the same thing for you. So a D personality. Let me give you some just glaring traits of personalities. A D personality is somebody who is very direct, very straightforward, cuts to the chase. How do you know you've ended a conversation with a D client? There's a click on the end of the phone. It's not, hey, have a great day, have a wonderful afternoon, hope all is well with you and your family, take care. You'll just hear a click. That's not because they don't like you. That's not because they hate you. That has nothing to do with it. It is their personality type. They're going to walk into a car dealership and they're going to go, that car, how much? Right? And if whoever that person is who's representing that dealership starts to go into anything, they're toast. They're lost. They'd rather just go to somebody else who goes, 48,500. Okay? That is what a D personality wants. Does that make sense? Anybody know anybody like that? Okay, can you now identify that for somebody who is very direct, straightforward, almost doesn't have a filter, right? Just brutal, brutally honest, okay?
They're also very driven.
Very driven, good. You can use whatever words you want. How's that? Use whatever adjectives you'd like, okay? An I. An I is someone who's very much about how they look, how they come across, their social status, what they like to do. So if you're looking at somebody who's an I, if you said, hey, you know what, I can get you a 10-bedroom house in Mount Helix, or I can get you a 1-bedroom in Rancho Santa Fe. I want to be in Rancho Santa Fe. Okay? Very social media driven, very post driven, right? Very about what they wear, how they look, the aesthetics. What's the appearance? How close to restaurants, my friends, my social life? That's an I. That's a real standard I. Good? Can anybody identify with that personality? I don't mean you, but know someone who's like that. Yes? It's not a bad thing. This is not judging people. This is just identifying. That's all we're doing. Okay, an S. An S is someone who uses feel, felt, found words. Feels comfortable. Feels homey. It's warm. It's very family-oriented. It's friendly to pets. You're going to notice with an S, speech is slower. It's warmer tones. Have you noticed that I've done that? That is an S. Good. They're going to be looking at houses and they're going to be going, gosh, is this room large enough to have get-togethers for the family? They may not have kids. How's the school district? Okay. These are people who are very much in tune with how things feel. Good? How it feels to them when they walk in. Okay? All right, let's talk about a C. A C client will come to an initial consultation with a needs and want list, possibly in Excel, okay, with a pie or graph chart. Okay, good, engineers. And the biggest misnomer is that when you're meeting with a C client and you're interviewing them, you're not interviewing them. They're interviewing you. They already know the answers. They've already done their homework. They just want to see if you have. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, why is all of this important to me personally? I want to mirror them. This is not about being fake. This is not about being phony. This is bring out the part of yourself that they can relate to. Does that make sense? Okay? Don't be fake. Be yourself. But know who you're talking to on the other side. Because if you've got a D client, who do you think the D client wants to work with the least?
The C. No, the S. The S.
The S and the I. Why? They don't mind the uncomfortable silence. They'll go in the car and you'll drive them around if you do that, and they're not going to say anything. They don't like idle chit-chat. They're not looking to make small talk. Good? Everybody's seeing how that plays or can play an important part of working with anybody. I can say the same thing in 4 different ways to 4 different personality types and make it feel exactly what they want to hear.
Which is why you have to have 4 different pitches for the brbc.
And it's not a pitch, in my opinion. It's an explanation. Want some water? It's an explanation. All you're doing is explaining what this is in a manner that they can hear it. So, in the same token that the gentleman in the back had asked, I don't know your first name, I'm sorry. What's your first name? John. So, as John had been alluding to, well, how do you, when do you do this? How do you do this? What are you, we've got people in from out of town. How are we going to do this? Disclose, disclose, disclose. Identify the personality type. Mirror that personality type. Bring that out of you, your person, that part of your person that is most relatable to them. And that's the way you present it. And that's the way you talk to somebody on the phone. But now, in the same manner that we talked about personality types, you need to establish how you work with clients. It's your business. We're all independent contractors. You determine whether or not you want to use a buyer-broker agreement. You determine what you're going to stand for and what you're not going to stand for. But if you say, I'm not doing this without it, every client that I talk to, the first time, on the phone, in person, at an open house, doesn't matter, friend, family, whatever, there are 2 things that I ask of all the buyers that I work with. Number 1, while we're working together, we only work together and make a commitment to that in writing. I don't like to make a commitment for more than 90 days. I want to make sure we both feel comfortable working together. Based on what I've told you, are you comfortable moving forward? That is what I tell every single buyer every time. That's something I wrote, rewrote, until I got it to where I felt it was that I was disclosing everything to my client up front. Okay? We talked about disclosing early, disclosing often. First conversation, she gets a client, gets a call, coming in from out of town. Great. Let me tell you how I work. When I work with buyers, this is what I ask, and this is why. Here's what I expect from you. Good? Very simple. Come up with your own statement of how you work, why you work that way, what they can expect of you, and what you expect of them. And then learn it. And then learn it. And then say it over again, and say it over again, and over and over and over.
What if you already done step 1, now how do you backtrack?
I don't need to backtrack.
If you didn't do step 1.
Okay, so here, I have never, in 27 years of doing a buyer-broker agreement, I have not yet, with any success, seen anyone who's working with a client already successfully go to sitting down with a client and saying, I need to have this signed. Because the first alarm bell that's going to ring in that client's head is, wait, why are they asking me now? What did I do that's making them think that I'm not trustworthy? Does that make sense? This is why. Disclose, disclose, disclose. First conversation. Second conversation on the phone. And by the way, when you come into the office, I'm going to have you sign the paperwork that we talked about, stating that we're working together for 90 days. Comfortable with that? Good? Third conversation. When they come into the office, here's the paperwork that we talked about on the phone regarding us working together for 90 days. Good? 3 times I've talked to them about it before they sign it. That is the way you need to do it if you want to get it signed. Yes?
Otherwise, you can wait for them to write an offer with someone else. and
Go ahead.
sign it when
Feel
they
free, because they're going to write it with me, because I'm going to have them on a buyer-broker agreement. This is the way things are going. It was not always like this, but now with the new ruling, trust me, this is, in my opinion, this is the way things are going. So either get used to it or be behind the 8 ball when it's mandated and you're struggling to keep clients and struggling to learn this. Do it now. Do it now before it's mandated, so you're already up and running. That is my opinion. Good? Yes?
Another really easy way that we were taught, and I don't know, you tell me your thoughts, write an offer, you say represent them on that property and other future properties as well.
Oh, you mean so slip it into the contract?
Well, no, I'm just saying that's if they're not comfortable, that is a way.
Absolutely.
to get them
So
to do
so let's talk about this. And we're going to fill this out. I'll probably spend the last half hour filling out the form. Good. We're going to fill this out with information that is going to make this reasonable. Good? Okay. You guys want a 5 minute? Are you guys good? No? Show of hands. 5 minutes, one. You got 3 minutes. How's that? Good? 3 minutes. I know some people were itching to use the restroom, so yes.
Do you need 3 minutes?
No.
So I have my parents are advising us not to sign more contracts than we need to, but we love you and we've taken you to dinner, we're committed to you, but we don't want to sign. And I shelved it for now.
Okay.
I'm giving them all the reasons. My brokerage, I was spending all the way down to even spending resources and time, doing property searches. I'm pretty compelling with all the arguments. And they're just like, we hope that you trust us and we trust you. And we've been working together for a while and they always call me to go see places. So they're putting their money where their mouth is for today. I mean, you can only do what you can do, right?
Right.
So.
And if you've already worked with them, then it's hard to then bring that back in.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
It's got to be set up. That's my opinion. Sorry, I'm just grabbing a water. Yes.
So, I got burned like almost 3 times from
Yeah.
my brokers, and he doesn't even go after. I had to go after. He said, well, you need to put your money with your lawyer and stuff. I mean, luckily, I go after. I get all my money commission, and one time, like back then, this is way back, like 15 years ago, we don't do this. My client doesn't want to sign.
Yeah. So I'm
You know,
for
So,
me specific.
luckily,
Yeah.
When I send my agency disclose the listing agent called me when I already submit the offer and they later go with somebody else. It's like, oh, what's going on? I have your buyer. But the thing is, it's the same agent in my same office. Oh my God. And then I talked to the broker and Rex will say, well,
See,
maybe
now,
you two can just talk.
I
said, no,
I
that's my
personally I
buyer."
couldn't work for somebody like that.
I know. So, like I said, I got burned 3 times. The second time, I got commission every time. But the second time, all of a sudden they send me a cancellation buyer. But you know what? I went with the grievance, okay?
Yep.
And then later, that broker wouldn't pay, right? But then later, that broker is running to be president of CAL, and later decided to settle outside.
Of course.
Of course.
Absolutely.
To be able to become their own realtor searching on the internet. So where is the value?
So do you think it's good if I say, you know what? I need you to sign the buyer broker agreement so I can start sending you MLS.
Correct. Yeah, I won't
right?
send people anything.
Like electronically signed, right? And a lot of time, I say, okay. A lot of time, I don't know who they are. I'd like to do face to face.
Yes.
They want to do face to face.
Yeah.
So well, when you still got to sign this,
Everybody-
I can send you MLS, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. You establish how you work. Okay, we'll do 1 minute. Good?
Wasn't more full after you doing your
Oh.
little spiel at the thing, because you were so good.
Oh, thank
I
you.
was already signed up, and I was like, man, they're gonna really fill up, and I was surprised.
Yeah, it's all right. Good, fine by me. People who want it will be here.
Yeah.
What's up, Tam?
So
Nothing. What's going on, Tam?
I was hoping you'd bring up the
You know what? That's
What book was that again? Platinum what?
it's called the Platinum Rule.
Yeah, but you can look that.
You can look up the DISC profiling system.
No, I've
Yeah.
heard of it before, and I know,
We had to know it was Greg who made us. And I hope it totally, people don't realize
Yep.
it does.
I agree.
A D doesn't give a crap about your kids.
I don't
They
care.
don't want any fluff.
Nah.
And it's funny, because who do you think we know is a D? We both know. But yeah, it's definitely,
All right. What's that? Yeah, we're good. If you guys want to take your seats, that'd be great. Please. I'm trying, Tam. I'm trying. Okay, we're missing 1, 2, 3, 4.
On the, you know, the
There you go.
included forms for
My
the,
pleasure.
BRBC.
Yep.
When you're establishing it, but they include the, which one is it? They include the possible representation, or buyer transactional advisory, that requires an address. Do you just put all properties, or what do you put in there?
See buyer broker.
See buyer broker.
Yep.
Got it, okay.
Or see BRBC.
Okay.
Yeah, there were too many variations of this form.
I still call it buyer broker.
That's what I call it. So, yeah. So if I'm mislabeling things and saying buyer broker, I mean BRBC. How's that? Good.
When I came in, I said, I'm here for the buyer broker classes. She's
No,
like, what?
yeah.
I said, oh God, I'm like, I'm telling my age.
Okay.
Say facts though.
Okay. Pretty good. Yes.
You said earlier you set 2 expectations with your client when you meet with them. You gave us one, which is work exclusively together.
Okay, so number one, I tell them how long, so I define a time in my conversation. You heard me say 90 days. That's, for me, what's comfortable. But I will tell you, you can set whatever time frame you want as long as it's reasonable. I will tell you that all of the counsel that I've talked with and worked with over the years have stated to me that a time, because I would always say, well, how long on the buyer broker? How long can we, what's the time frame? They would say, it's got to be reasonable. What is reasonable? Without using it as a tool of entrapment. I use 90 days, and again, it is true, because I want to make sure that I am comfortable with them, they are comfortable with me. Good. But the guidance that I've been given by counsel over the years has been nothing more than 6 months, because it would be above what they would feel would be reasonable, that a client would be able to determine what they're looking for, change parameters, not buy, but just have a knowledge of what they want. Good? Fair enough? Okay, so I want to get into, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I want to get into the next part. Who here has heard of going 3 deep? 1, 2. Okay. Questioning 3 deep. Critical skill. And a lot of you may do it without even knowing what it is. Going 3 deep. I walk into a property, okay? I open the door. Clients come with me. Walk around, meet up in the living room again. Do you like this property? No. Okay, let's go to the next property. Go to the next property. Open up the door, they walk in, they walk around. Was this more of your liking? Kind of. Okay, we go to the next property. I go to the door, get the key out of the lockbox, open the door. What have I proven? Nothing. I am an idiot.
You haven't asked them what they didn't like about the property.
You know how to open a door.
Yeah, and that's about it. Okay? Going 3 deep. You didn't like this property? May I ask, what about this property did you not like? Didn't like the kitchen. What about the kitchen didn't you like? Well, I didn't like the cabinets. Okay, so if we found a property that you could either replace the cabinets or change the look of those cabinets, would that work? That was 4. Go 3 deep at a minimum. Okay? Otherwise, you're wasting your time. How are you going to find out what a client needs are if you don't ask? Because they're not going to let you know that. Good? 3 questions deep. Don't let the surface answer sit there. Good? So, when a client says, and somebody asked me this before, well, I have a client who said, that their parents said they didn't want to have us sign a buyer-broker agreement or any kind of paperwork or any kind of agreement. Fair enough? What's the first question I want to ask? Why? May I ask what it is about signing a contract your parents said they don't want you to sign?
California's over litigious. And
California's over litigious. Fair enough. Okay. That's good. Anybody else got an answer?
That's why you need to sign the paper.
Why do you need to sign the paper? Why do you need to sign the paper? I don't want to sign it. May I ask why you don't want to sign it? Well, I don't want to make a commitment. Fair enough. What commitment don't you want to make? Well, I don't want to make a commitment to buy a house. Great. Are you aware of the fact that when you sign a buyer-broker agreement, there is no obligation to purchase a property? There is no cost or fee unless you've put it in here as a minimum threshold. Okay? You are not obligated to purchase anything. The only thing that this states is that in the event you are to purchase a property within this time frame, within this area, within this price range, that you will use me as your agent. That is the only commitment you're making. Good? What are some other objections you think clients will bring up?
Don't want to commit to working with just one agent.
I don't want to commit to working with one agent.
I want to go to the listing agent.
I want to go to the listing agent. We'll do one at a time. So, first, I don't want to commit to one agent. You know, I want to, I'll see who brings me the deal. Great. When that property comes around, the right one that you wanted, whom do you think agents are calling? The buyers who are committed to them or the buyers who are working with 10 other agents? You won't even know about it. My clients will be in escrow. Okay. What was the next one? I want to work with the listing agent. Great. You want to work with the listing agent. So let's talk about that for a second. You think you're going to, why do you want to work with the listing agent? Let's do that. I'm going to get a better deal. Why do you think you're going to get a better deal?
They said so.
So the listing agent said so. Great. Perfect. So, okay, fair enough. And when did they tell you that?
When I went through an open house.
When I went through an open house. Perfect. This is exactly where I wanted this to lead. Okay? You walk into an open house, and I'm going to look at everybody's heads to nod, yes or no. Okay? And the listing agent is there. The listing agent. Okay? We know that the listing agent, by law and in the contract, the listing contract, they have got a fiduciary obligation to get the seller the highest possible price and best possible terms. Anybody disagree with that? Fair enough, Miss Buyer. If you walk into that open house and that agent says they can get you a great deal, how do they, if they've got a fiduciary obligation by law and in the contract to get the seller the highest possible price and best possible terms, how do they play both sides of the board for double the money and have your best interest in mind? I'm just curious.
I just want to get the place, and they said I can buy it if I buy it through them, so it doesn't matter.
They said I can buy it, and if I buy it through them, then I'll get it. So you're telling me that they're saying they're not going to look at other people's offers, that they can get yours over anybody else's? Is that what they insinuated?
That's what they insinuated.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I personally don't believe in unethical behavior. I believe in making sure that people are disclosed everything up front. And I would say if somebody has an ulterior motive and says that we're going to get your offer taken by a seller when they haven't even seen your offer over any other offer that's come in, I have a few questions. It's not how I practice. It's not how I do business. And I'm telling you, if you want to work with me, it's a whole different game. Good? Yes. Fair enough? Questions? No? Okay. So, any other objections you think I'd hear? Okay. How about the other agent's going to give me some money back? Nobody heard that? Yeah? Ah, good. Love that one. Okay. I've heard a lot of objections over 27 years. Okay. The other agent's going to give me some of their money back. They're going to give me part of my commission. Well, you already heard me overcome the one objection when she said they're going to give me some money back, right? Did everybody hear that? No? Okay. Well, they're going to give me some money back from their commission. Great. So that's what you want me to do, correct? Yes. Okay, so I've got a question. What part of what I do you want me to leave out, right? And then I'll cut out that part of what I do to give you a credit. You want me to cut out my expert negotiating skills, my access to contractors and home inspectors. Tell me what part of what I do you want me to leave out, and I'd be happy to. That usually ends that conversation.
Well, what if they say, half of it, I don't need a contractor, I just want your expert negotiating skills.
You just want my expert negotiating skills. Well, let me ask you a question. Your first name? Koshal. Koshal, let me ask you a question. If that agent is agreeing to give you part of their commission back already, correct? If they're that bad of a negotiator on their own behalf, how good of a negotiator do you think you're going to be on your behalf? Good? Yes.
If they say that, okay, they're doing everything, they don't cut anything, and I know a neighbor that they found a very good home for them too, and still they will give my money back.
They're going to give you the money back. And that's fine. If they want to practice real estate that way, that's fine. But my recommendation would be, whether you use me or somebody else, get your own independent agent, somebody who's got a fiduciary obligation for you to make sure that you are being taken care of and that they have no vested interest in it for them, that will handily say, you know what, walk away. It's not what you want. Good? Yes.
Another fun way, that's very effective what you just said, but another really fun way is, that sounds like a deal. How about you share your paycheck with me on Friday? You give me your paycheck, and we'll talk about me giving you back yours, and then you say, funny enough, why would you want to work with someone who's willing to give it their, and they laugh, and it's just a really nice turn instead of a serious conversation.
Agreed.
What about companies like Zillow giving them back?
Hey, the one thing about Zillow I can say, whether you advertise or not, look at the Zestimate. The Zestimate, I'm sure at some point in a dictionary is going to state misleading. Right? Because the one thing you can guarantee on a Zestimate is that it's going to be wrong. It's either going to be way high or way low. Because the question is, why? They're a third-party company. How do they make their money? The buyers don't know this. This is part of the education process when you're doing an initial consultation, is to explain to a buyer why they would need you and your expertise. Okay? They don't understand that Zillow and Trulia and some of these other places, all they do is make their money by advertising. So every time you refresh, it's a new agent who comes up. It's a pay-by-click. That's what it is. Did you know that? No, they didn't. Okay. Fair enough? Good? Yes.
If I may, I just wanted to add that if you have someone who is asking you for a portion of your commission, if you start off that way with that client, it's not going to stop there.
Yeah, and that's good point.
Have that conversation
Yep.
with them up front, and I will, when I realize they want everything for the very minimum, I politely and professionally let them know, there are other agents out there, I'm sure, that are willing to do that.
Yeah.
You are free.
Correct. Yeah.
Because you need to set your own standard.
Correct. And that's why we talked about before, how I work. That initial statement that we talked about, how I work, what they can expect. Not how I sometimes work. Not how I kind of work. Not how on occasion I work. This is how I work. This is what's expected. Here's what you can expect of me. You guys are worth it, and whether you're brand new agents or seasoned agents. And sometimes seasoned agents are more difficult to train because they haven't needed to do it, and they've restrained themselves from that uncomfortable conversation because they're so tied into how it's been done. And sometimes newer agents are more open to listening and learning and adapting to the changes in the market. Does that make sense? But I'm telling you, if you grasp this now, even to start, you know what? This agreement can be exclusive or non-exclusive, depending on how you fill it out. Why in God's green earth would you continue to do this if you're doing non-exclusive? Why even have it signed? For disclosure? Great. First 2 pages, disclosure. Good? Get it signed, fill it out correctly, fill it out reasonably, therefore it will be deemed enforceable. We've all talked about that, correct? Do it. Get it done. You know what? Role play with a friend, a spouse, a family member. Doesn't matter. Role play with it. Get it so you're comfortable explaining it. Know the contract. There isn't any excuse to not know the contract. And that includes the RPA, and that includes every form. Yes?
So if you're a seasoned agent like myself, and you've not used this, and now you want to start making it a business practice to use
Yes.
it from this point on, how do you deal with your past clients that come to you and then you've never used it in the past?
You know what? This is how I work now. Okay? All you had to do was add that now. It's the only thing.
Well, a lot has changed since we last worked together.
There you go. A lot has changed. The market has changed. Good? Things have changed. Okay? Fair enough? Okay. Does this buyer-broker agreement protect you, or BRBC, protect you in the event of a for sale by owner or a new home development? What's the answer? No. Yes. Because this buyer-broker that you are going to fill out reasonably, and we're going to go through that you're going to fill out reasonably, applies to any area that you've specifically put in, okay, in the time frame, within the price range. Specifics, not a use for a tool of entrapment. Cannot be used that way. It has to be filled out reasonably. I know everybody gets tired of hearing reasonably, but that is the litmus test for any attorney and any court. They're going to look at, is a contract filled out reasonably, therefore is it deemed enforceable? Good?
I heard you couldn't put San Diego County.
Why couldn't you put San Diego County when we're defining
Well,
areas?
let me finish.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I know it's too broad, and that's why, but I have worked with people at the beginning of, like, they don't know San Diego, they don't know where they want to live, and they did look from everything from Escondido to East County to everything to get a feel for the neighborhood.
Good.
So I didn't have a buyer broker, but I did work with people like that. So in those circumstances, when they don't know the area, if you can't be too broad with saying San Diego County, what do you do?
Sure.
with those
So let me ask a question. Are they going to go to San Ysidro? Okay, what's their price range?
Sometimes it fluctuates.
It does. And it's going to fluctuate on what the rates are. It's going to fluctuate on if they're getting help from a family member, the type of loan, when arms are being used. Are you kidding me? Please, it was, oh, great. I wait tables, but I can afford $1 million house. Yes.
Real quick, and I apologize, I know I walked in a little late, but do you have, I don't know if you've already shared examples of what you just said, where that this will help you with a for sale by owner or a new development?
Not yet. We're going to get into the contract in just a second. Good? All right, so let's get into the contract. Good? Let's get in the meat and bones of this, because I'm going to get you guys out of here on time. Okay? Okay, we talked about the first 2 pages. What is this?
Disclosure.
Disclosure regarding agency. What does this state? Okay? Essentially, this states, I am a licensed agent. I'm not certain what capacity you're going to be using me as, but I am a licensed agent. I need to disclose this to you. Why? Go ahead. It's the law. Good? Fair enough. All right. Let's go to, sorry, now I got to use my glasses. Okay, let's go to the BRBC, the Buyer Representation and Broker Compensation Agreement. Everybody there? Okay. Anybody not there? Good. You good? Front row, you good? Yeah. Okay, good. I didn't see you, yes. And I saw you on the first page, so I was just making sure. All right. representation period and right to represent. So, what do you think goes on the first line? Only because it says it right here. The buyer's name. What happens if you've got more than one buyer? Okay. Correct. 2, 3 people. Okay, you're sitting during an initial consultation. You're talking to the client. He's 25 years old, looking for his first property. He's really excited, really thrilled. Great. Have you talked to a lender yet? Yes, my parents have. Okay, great. So, are your parents helping you get the loan? Well, they're going to co-sign. Now what? They go on the buyer-broker agreement. Anyone who's going to be in the purchase process and be on the loan or on title needs to be on this buyer-broker agreement. Good? Questions? Good. Okay, second line. Grants. Okay? You're going to write in your brokerage name / your last name. Why? It is you and your brokerage. Okay? Remember, you leave the brokerage during a buyer-broker or BRBC agreement. Whom does that client belong to? Broker. Good? Right of succession. Just like a listing. Good? Okay. Yes?
Can I dive into that?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
So I leave my brokerage in the midst of a transaction.
Yep.
They still.
In the middle of a transaction?
Let's say say it's a parcel of land that takes a year to close, right?
Okay.
90 days, and I decided I'm gonna leave. Is that does that become a referral type of situation? Or?
That's between you and your brokerage.
Okay.
Good? It is whatever the agreement is that you have with your brokerage.
The broker supersedes, right?
Correct. It's right of succession.
Okay.
Good?
Thank you.
Questions? Nope. Good. Moving on.
Why just your last name if you have a comment on it?
Why just your last name? There are a lot of Smiths that work for ABC Realty. What's going to differentiate it? Your signature on the signature page. Good? Okay. All right. Beginning on and ending date. Okay. For any contract to be deemed reasonable, there needs to be a reasonable time frame that's put in. It has to have a start date and an end date. We've talked about the counseling that I have received over the years on previous forms, which is on the buyer-broker exclusive, which was on the one from 28 years ago, which was or 26 years ago, excuse me, which was it needs to be deemed reasonable. All of the counsel that I have ever talked to has said the maximum amount of time that they would feel comfortable recommending would be 6 months. Anything over that, they felt would be used as a tool of entrapment, because they felt that within that 6-month period of time, that client will have either purchased, not purchased, or narrowed down what they're looking for, in which case you can always sign another buyer-broker agreement. Good? Questions? There you go. How long of a period of time, we just said, is the most?
6 months.
6 months. What's the shortest period of time you could? The day. Clients coming into town, they're going to look at properties. Okay? You show them properties that day. You've got your buyer-broker agreement signed for the day that they're in town. Why would it be for just that day? Why just do it for a day? They're not buying that day. How are you protected? Because if they write, who said procuring cause? John? John, man with the answers in the hat. Okay? Okay? Procuring cause. But you're going to have to jump through some hoops to get this to be procuring cause. This is not going to be used as a tool of entrapment. You cannot just say, hey, I put you on a buyer-broker agreement, and guess what? You buy anything, you're mine that day. And the way we fill it out, for 6 months past the expiration of this contract, you are protected on all of the buyers that you told them about or that you had shown them. Ready? All of those properties. But guess what? It doesn't happen automatically. Okay? You need to, within, and this is where we put it in, within 15 days of the expiration of this contract, provide them with a list of all of the properties that you're going to be protected on. It cannot just be this broad swath of, everything in the county. Right? It's whatever you sent them and whatever you introduced them to, whether you opened the door or not. If you made them aware of that property, you are procuring cause.
So on the location, can you put all properties shown or all?
So we're going to go through that. Good? But we're right there, almost there. Okay? So let's talk about number 2. Yes.
So the contract's expiring and you're going to renew it with a new contract.
Yep.
So you're going to provide that list.
I would.
First contract?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good? So let's talk about this for a second. Okay? What is the first thing when you introduce yourself to a buyer in that conversation? What's the one question you should be asking? Are you working with any other agent? Here's how I say it. I just want to know if you're working with any other agent in particular. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Okay? If there's a pause, that's a maybe, and probably a no. They're just trying to think about how to tippy-toe around that. Good? If it's a yes, what do we talk about?
I ask who they are.
Going 3 deep. Have you signed any paperwork with that agent for exclusivity? Yes, I have. Okay, great. What do you do then? Bye-bye. You cannot, once you know, by law, per ethics, go on and talk about real estate with them in any substantive manner other than just in a general way. Otherwise, what? Contractual interference. Good? Remember that. Yes?
If you end up working with a buyer whose agreement has expired and there are properties that an agent has showed them and they produce that within 15 days, how do you get that? You just ask?
Ask your client. Are you working with anybody on a contract? Do you have any kind of exclusivity with any other agent? Yes? Well, I was. Okay. When did that expire? Expired last week. Have they provided you with a list of properties that they're going to be protected on? No. Have they said that they're going to send you a list? Great. You can write it in here that there is no, this one states, wrong glasses. It's age. That there is a pre-existing. You are going to put in here that there is a pre-existing buyer-broker agreement in which they are going to be provided a list by the previous broker, in which case those properties will be excluded from this agreement. Good?
And if no list is ever provided?
If no list is provided, they're out of luck. That other agent is. They should have. But I'm not practicing real estate for anybody else. Good? Okay, questions? Yes? No, that's going to be in 3, but I'll show you where that is. Yeah, question?
If they start working with us 5 days later and
Yep.
they haven't gotten the list from the other agent yet, how do we know what to exclude?
You won't. You're stating in the contract that they are expecting a list from the previous buyer-broker agreement, BRBC agreement.
You can ask, have you toured this property before?
You can. You should. What have you seen previously?
Yeah.
Which properties have you seen? Anything you've written on? Good? Okay. All right. Bye, Rocky.
As I stated,
I know. Thanks, Rock. Okay. Moving down to property to be acquired. Location. So, the argument is, well, I'm just going to put down all San Diego County. Okay, you get on the witness stand in the event that there's cross-examination, and plaintiff's attorney says, well, wait a second. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Kaplan. You say all San Diego County. At what point did they say they were going to look in Rancho Santa Fe? They didn't. Oh, okay. Did you ever show them properties in Rancho Santa Fe? No. Why? Well, their price range is up to $700,000. So I guess it wouldn't be reasonable to assume that Rancho Santa Fe would be in this. That's it. Take one area and you're out. So, how do we define what areas and how to delineate on this paper specifically, without prejudice, the areas?
Areas that fall within the buyer's budget and lending capacity.
Fair enough. Okay? But most importantly, after sitting with them and hearing what they're saying, you will then encapsulate that by looking at areas when you're sitting down during the initial consultation. How far north, south, east, west, going 3 deep. Well, yeah, I work at Kaiser. I'm a physician. Okay? Okay, Mr. Physician or Mrs. Physician or Ms. Physician. What do you do at Kaiser? Well, I'm a surgical, cardiothoracic surgeon. Fair enough. Okay, so how far from work do you want to be? Well, I'm on call a lot, so I really can't be more than a half-hour drive. Okay, fair enough. So you're mapping this out and you're going, okay, from here to here to here, here's Kaiser, here's a 30-minute drive, here's a 30-minute drive, here's a 30-minute drive, here's a 30-minute drive. What's the one question that could change that? What time of day? I work overnights. I only get called in emergencies. My shift is 10 to 4. Now, where's 30 minutes? Here, there. Does that make sense? But what do you think we put in under areas? Okay, let me tell you what you don't put in. You do not put in proper names. Okay? You don't put in Solana Beach. You don't put in Chula Vista. Why? It's not good. North County Coastal. Yeah, I'm just saying. So we wouldn't put that in. But why, like all of the ones that I just mentioned, we won't put those in? Why? Wait a second. What if they don't know? What if they're not certain? Oh, we thought this was in Encinitas. We didn't realize it was in Solana Beach. So how do you get more specific? Zip codes. Good? Yes?
So back in the day,
Yep.
now I'm dating myself, in the REO days, for example,
Mm-hmm.
so many officers in Chula Vista, for example, bought in Marietta. We could argue this, but you really don't know where they're going to end up. And
You don't.
Yeah.
But so all you can do is put a reasonable, again, sorry, I hate to keep, like I said, it is what it is.
But they would challenge that and say that's not reasonable, but yet that's what people do.
Hold on, but wait a second. Who's going to challenge it? It's not reasonable.
Say yeah.
That's my question.
When you're on the stand, if legally they're going to say.
But have you put that area in?
Well, say we began in Chula Vista and they end up in Fallbrook.
Fair enough.
We didn't know until 3 months down the line.
Fair enough. That's good. So what do you do on this?
You update it?
You update it. How do you update it? What are the 2 ways that you can update a contract? Addendum is one. What's the second? Modification of terms. How is that done? Anybody want to throw in there? Wind forms. Yes. Ready? Okay. Parentheses. Adding the zip codes. Initial and date by all parties. Good? Enforceable. Reasonable. Yes?
Who is this, arbitration? Who does this go before if there's some?
Well, if you've got arbitration mediation signed, then it's going to arbitration mediation first. the hypotheticals that I'm throwing out are based on if you went to court.
What happens is I've had clients looking in Claremont, love a house in Claremont.
Yes.
Okay, we're under $1 million.
Yep.
This was a little while ago. And, I know, I'm laughing, right? And then they suddenly see a house in La Jolla that they like.
Right.
And Bird Rock, and it's.
Guess what?
$4 million.
Oh, outstanding. We're changing areas. I'm going to just add La Jolla to our areas. Do you want to look at any other coastal areas? Is it okay if we go north of the merge? Okay, you want to look at Del Mar, Carmel Valley? Okay, you don't want Tracty? Okay, so you want to stick with maybe even Solana Beach? Is that?
I've got a client right now that's looking within a certain drive.
But-
And suddenly they're looking in North County, and I'm like.
Can you fill out that form and put that in the back?
And I've had clients that are looking on the coast.
So here's the thing. Everything can be modified and agreed to. What we're saying is, how do you fill it out initially? And then how do you adapt to a changing of the parameters from the buyer?
So Ken, I think that's optimistic, only from standpoint, tell me how you deal with this. Right?
Yes.
Got a client I've been working with for years,
Mhm.
okay? Working with them for years, they have a job change, code comes up or whatever, they start working with other people, I'm trying to ping them, they don't come up on the radar screen.
Yep.
I figure they don't have their visa thing figured out.
Okay.
Okay, they come to me and they say, you know, John, some of these agents don't know anywhere as much as you. We want to work with you. So
Okay.
I start showing them houses again.
Okay.
Showing them houses. Boom, they're off in East County, and they say, John, we're so happy we put an offer in on the house. I'm like, what the heck?
So you can't mitigate every single circumstance. It is impossible.
But that's a very typical circumstance.
But wait a second. But here's the thing. Here's what I would go to. But here's what I would say. This is not an absolute 100% cure-all, be-all. But I will tell you,
Why can't I put San Diego County in?
because of the exact reasoning that I just told you. It is too broad. It needs to be specific.
Are you saying that this has been knocked out?
Yes. Yes, it has.
Because I've had trainers before, I've had past brokers tell me to put in San Diego.
Okay, ready? Who do you think knows the most about buyer-broker agreements? The brokers and the managers who are sitting behind a desk, or the people who are actually using it every single day?
The trainers, the brokers, people that sit on grievance committee?
I can only tell you what precedence is. And I can only tell you what I've been taught through the years, through counsel. Car counsel, NAR counsel, and counsel for independent brokerages that I've worked for.
And knowing where the market's going, most important.
Okay, good. Good. I know it doesn't solve it, but
Kevin Burke say this?
yes, ask Kevin. Kevin has me come in and teach for him.
I understand, I'm just.
Go ahead.
Back to the form.
Yes.
Location, we put zip codes, then we mark cities, and then we put zip codes, and then we mark county, and then there we can put San Diego County.
No, so here's what we're going to do. Ready? Location. Okay? Location. Zip codes. Cities, C, location. Good? And check the box and says counties of, if you were going to be working with them in Temecula, if you're going to be working with them in Menifee, and they're going to be possibly considering that, then fine, put Riverside County. If not, San Diego County. Good? Or Orange County, or wherever you may take yourself. Good? Yes?
I just had a thought when you guys were discussing the last subject, I don't know what it was. But what about adding to other terms, the client agrees if they go outside of this area to have a working relationship and let you know?
So here's the thing. Again, you can't capture everything, and it's not an absolute. What you're trying to do is present a reasonable idea of how you work and what's going to be covered.
I think a lot, I mean, if we make this a practice.
But wait a second. There's never 100% in anything, John. And if you've been practicing real estate, you know that.
I just thought of something,
Yes.
John, that as.
And I need to get back to this because we're on a tight, no, good.
This is a big point, and I guess it plays to the buyer's opportunity to have an agent that actually knows and represents represents the area, because we could entrap them. Early in my career, I would sign this blanketed broker agreement, and I went to Temecula once in my life, and suddenly I think I'm a Temecula specialist, so they
But
can
here-
come back and say, John wasn't supposed to represent me, or didn't.
Yeah, and I would just say this. Your initial consultation is going to set the stage for everything you do. So during that initial consultation, if you're not covering areas that you should have asked about, bad on you. If things change because circumstances change, that's not anything you can foresee. I used to put $1 to 42 million back in the day on price range. Okay? And the joke that I used to make was, you hit the lottery, I'm still your agent. Right? Guess what? No way. Council said, you can't. Why? It's not reasonable. Good? Yeah, I got short time, but go ahead.
Is there a specific, if you add areas, a specific addendum, or do you just have a refill this out?
So I know people who, in the past and currently, will add an addendum to that and put C addendum 1 and then write that in with an initial and a date. Good? And then execute that addendum. Good? All right. Good? Okay, moving on. All right, so price range. Okay? The price range needs to be reasonable. So, if they've talked, and they may not know the price range when you first start, but you can absolutely ask them what their comfortable monthly payment is. And if you're not checking with your lender once a week, or a lender who you know, then you should be. Because you should know, for every $100,000 borrowed, what is the payment on a 30-year? What's the payment on a 15? Right? What's the payment on a VA 30? What's the payment on an FHA 30, including PMI? Does that make sense? Know these numbers. You can be educated. You can educate yourself. Know what these numbers are on a weekly basis. So at any given point, when you're sitting with a client, you can say, by the way, roughly, based on the rates that were last week, this is what it should run you on a monthly basis for every $100,000 borrowed, based on this down payment, okay, and this interest rate. Good? So if they say, hey, look, it's $700 a month for every $100,000 borrowed. We're going to borrow $700,000. Well, do you want to purchase a property that's $700,000, or you're going to, how's that working? So they say, fine. No, we're going to buy a $700,000 property. We're going to put 10% down. What does that give us? $630 loan amount, right? Take $700,000, or take $700 a month times 6.3. Good? There's your monthly payment. Does that equate to what they put down? No, then you better adjust. Okay? So, price range has to be within reason. So, let's say they're thinking based on what equates to the loan amount, the payment is going to be where they're purchasing at about a $700,000 loan, or a purchase price, $630 loan amount with 10% down. Good? Let's say they get a little bit more help from family, put a little bit more down. Let's say the interest rates take a shift, or they take a more aggressive note. What does $700,000 purchase price go to? Reasonably. Maybe 800, 850. Does it go to $1 million? Doubt it. Good? And what's the low end? Can't put $1. Why? You can't find a property for $1. So, based on the areas they're looking at, and they're looking for single detached, what's the low end on a major fixer? What's the last 90-day closed at? What's the trend of the market? Are we looking at higher market time? More negotiations? Right? Good? That's how you set the low number. Okay? All right, moving down. Okay, on 3B, if you were going to specify, they came in to see one house, you could specify that particular property. Good? Okay. We're going to go down to 4. Compensation to broker. A1. This is where if you were going to set a minimum threshold, what do we say, X or Z? John, what do we, I can't remember what, X or Z or whatever it was. X, fine. That X is what you're putting there. You can leave it blank. What does that mean? That means you're accepting whatever that is being offered by the seller or listing agent in the MLS. Good? Fair enough. Okay. Now, okay, we're going to go down to, ready? 4B2. You're going to check the box, which makes this exclusive. They cannot work with any other agents in the areas that you've specified, within the price range that you've specified. Good? Okay. Now, we're going to go down to BC2. Oh, sorry, BC1 first. My apology. Okay. Okay. C1. Check the box and put 180. No, sorry, my apology. Sorry. Check the box and put 15. My apology. Sorry, they moved some of the stuff, so. Good? Good? So that means you are going to be providing them a list of those properties which will be protected by you, that you are procuring cause on. But you have to give that to them within 15 days. Good? Okay. Sorry, putting my glasses on. Then we're going to go to 4C2. Good? Check the box. Ready? Whatever time frame is in this contract is in stone. You don't have the right to cancel. They don't have the right to cancel. Yes, John.
It would default on C1, or 4C1.
Yes.
It would default to 30 days, is that
Correct. It defaults at 30 days, but we feel that it's reasonable to within 2 weeks to be able to put that list together.
Okay.
Good? You need to provide that list to them within a timely manner. And
Okay, because they could already be in escrow with something.
possible. Yeah. So we want to shorten that time frame up. It makes us accountable.
Do you
Good.
have a second, or when this is over, because I know we're
Yeah.
running on time, what your best practice is to have that list ongoing?
Yes, be happy to. And there are a couple different ways to do that. There's actually forms for that, and then there's another way to do that. So I'd be happy to. Okay, so now we're going to, where are we at to? D. Okay, you are not touching D2, or D3, excuse me, D2. Good? D2. So that means if the percentage or whatever the commission is over Z or X, okay, you still get it. You're not crediting to the buyer. You're working for your fare. Good? Okay. Now, we're going to go to D3. This is the area that states that the buyer is allowing you to add this to any offer to send to the listing agent with your offer, so that the seller can see if the buyer's going to have to come out of pocket and how that may influence their offer. Good?
So like, for example, what
Correct.
you cited earlier.
Yep. Good? All right, moving on. Okay. Let's see. All right, so let's go to E. 4E. You're going to put in 180. What does that state? States that in the event this cancels or expires, any of those properties that you're going to be giving them within that 15-day period, you are protected on for 6 months after this expires. Good? Okay. Hold on one sec. Okay. Let's see. Anything else major important here? Yeah, you know, I mean, you can go to 7B and say, you know, they need to provide you with their financial information within 7 days, but the truth is, or 5 days, excuse me, you know, people are going to get it together when they get it together. Good? You hope that they're going to do it in a timely fashion, but, you know, we know how buyers are. They move quickly and slowly. Good? Okay. The rest of these are fairly self-explanatory, and I can deal with these after we're done. Okay.
They should be signed by your broker and yourself?
Correct. Questions?
So what about the seller page that you have?
Yeah, so there are a few other pages. We're at 1201 just because we had a few questions, but I'd be happy to stay and explain those to you. They're fairly self-explanatory, but I'm going to go through them with you. Good?
Just how often are people using it?
Well, and that's the thing. So the seller cancellation, we're not using because this is an exclusive agreement. It cannot be canceled by one party or the other. We've already checked the box on that. Good? Can only be canceled by mutual agreement in writing. Yes?
I've often had buyers buy and then they switch over to an entity.
So let's say that they say, you know what, we're gonna buy this in the trust. Well, wait a second. Is the trust getting the loan? Oh, it's not. So then it is the individual buyers. They're going to transfer it to the trust after they've closed. Good? I'm going to buy it in my LLC. So is the LLC getting the loan? Yes. Guess what? Then you use the representative capacity form. Okay? And you dictate exactly who it is who has signing power on that contract. Good? Okay. Seller payment to buyer's broker. Again, this is in the event that you did put X in there and X wasn't met. Fair enough? That's the only time you're using that form. The seller payment to buyer broker. Anticipated broker compensation disclosure. So this is what I do. You can do this however you'd like. This is a form that actually tracks the fact that you've let the client know, okay, about what the compensation is before you go into the property. That is important if you've hit a minimum threshold and put X in your minimum threshold as a compensation, right? The way that I have done it in the past is that I have them initial and date the broker page on my printout that I have. Or I can give them a one-liner every time I go and show them properties, the one-liner agent, and I'll have them initial and date that, showing that they were acknowledging the fact that I had shown them that property with the commission structure on it. So it's really got to be the broker's copy, the agent copy, excuse me, so that it shows here. And you can circle it if you want to. I'm sorry?
That's on the buyer's printout now, too.
It is, yeah, that's right, on the buyer's printout. Yeah, so you can give them the buyer's printout. Good. Cancellation, yes, initial and sign. Good.
A lot of the showing go through showing time or whatever. So
Yeah. Yeah, but you have record that you went through. You don't have record that they actually saw what the commission structure is. Good?
Do you have them initial each property or just
Yes.
the bottom of the page?
No, each property. Yeah. Good? Okay. Thanks for being patient. Thanks for the questions. And hopefully you got something out of this class. And if you did, great. I have my number up here. Not looking for a stalker. Okay. If you have questions, feel free to send me a text, call me, be happy to answer, happy to help in any way that I can, okay? And here's my email address. Where's that? Did I leave it on the table? Here it is. Okay. There you go. Good? Thank you, guys. And if you wouldn't mind turning in your evaluation sheets, they want to see. You can put those in the back if you want. If you don't mind leaving your evaluation sheet at the back, that'd be great. You can remain anonymous. So if you hated it, feel free.
do we have to guess that you're a D, possibly?
That what?
That you're a D personality?
So ready? I always thought that I'm an absolute D. But here's the thing. I have 3 daughters and I have a wife. So I am S, okay? I have some expensive hobbies that I like, okay? So that's an I, okay? And when I do my contracts and when I do my work, I'm a total C. Gotta be. So, yeah, I thought I was just one, but dominant's D.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought I was an I, but I was a D.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and everybody's a combination, and that's my opinion. I don't know anybody who's a solid D all the time. You know what I mean? Everybody kind of, you adapt to your environment. Yes?
Sorry, did you say the anticipated broker compensation disclosure?
Yes.
Do you use that each time you're showing them a property?
So what I do is I do the printout of the property, and then I'll have them initial and date at the bottom. But you can use that form every time you go out, so that so it shows which properties you showed them, what the commission structure is. So if they were obligated to pay any compensation, it would be very evident and apparent in a reasonable manner that they know that before going into the properties.
The same,
Before going to the property.
Correct. Yep.
and like if it's the same, do you need to use it?
I would put it down there anyways, just to show that you're being thorough and diligent. Good?
What are your expensive hobbies?
Watches is probably my big one. It's a sickness, it really is. It's bad. Oh, I didn't put them together, but, thanks, evaluation form? Did you get one? Oh, thanks. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Like I said, feel free, if you have questions, call me. Be happy to help. Good?
Thank you, Ken.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you. All right, you guys. Thank you. I'll hang out if people have questions. Be happy to.
So I do want to ask you, how do I kind of backtrack, so I got this new buyer coming into town in February?
I would call them today and just say, I'm just putting everything together. Just so you know, this is how I work. I'm going to ask you to, whatever, make a commitment for the month or whatever you want to do. And then, or for the day if they're coming in from out of town, or 2 days. Thank you so much.